I am a firm believer of the secret, what you think you manifest. Out of 96 practical exams I had to give, 95 practical exams, I got the same very practical, which I had only prepared of. We get into situations which, really impact us in a more negative manner.
I don't think you should just walk away from a relationship um, quickly. I think that if you're going to do that, be very measured because it's probably permanent.
There's a lot going in our head. We are so confused. There's a flood of emotions that's really stressing us out.
You're carrying something from childhood that was labeled as negative, and we have to reverse that and realize, no, this is a positive thing. Like I actually can empathize with people deeply and understand what they're going through and feel what they're feeling.
Listeners, we often find ourselves in situations where there's a lot going in our head. We are so confused. There's a flood of emotions, flood of thoughts that's really stressing us out. That's really giving us a lot of anxiety. And instead of navigating it out, instead of structuring those thoughts, what we often do is we keep spiraling down in it. We consume content which really gets us feel more worse. We get into situations which really impact us in a more negative manner. But have you ever thought what could writing down those thoughts do? What could you know giving your thoughts some structure bring in place? And that's something I recently experienced, as recent as just 2 weeks back, where something that was bothering me for over 1.5 months. And again, I'm sharing this from my personal experience where I was just consuming content on Instagram, YouTube, which was just getting me to spiral down into it. And being a content writer by profession, I thought, why not just put it out there? So I use Google Doc for it. Why not put it out there on the Google Doc? And to my surprise, within 3 weeks of writing and constantly, I'm much in a much better position. The situation has not changed, but yes, I have found more strength and more streamlined thought process to work on it. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. And writing some way or the other helps us to reclaim parts of ourselves. And today it's all going to be about reclamation. So once again, welcome to We Are Listening, a space where we bridge the gap between wellness seekers and wellness providers. And if you're someone who feels drawn towards healing but hesitant to try it, unsure where to begin, or skeptical about whether creative practices like writing can truly shift your emotional and mental state, this episode is for you. And for that, we have with us our guest today, Lisa Kovala, a Finnish Canadian author, certified fiction and memoir book coach, and podcast host. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. What about you?
Great.
How's the day going on for you?
Yeah, so good. It's great to be here. And I'm up here in Northern Ontario, and we have some sunshine today. So spring is coming. I'm excited.
Same here, same here, same here. In my during my morning walks, I see the trees, the park, and the flowers. They all are just getting ready for the spring that's gonna come in.
Yeah,
And I believe the planetary positions are also changing themselves in a manner where last 2 months, 1.5 months were really struggling for a lot of people out there. And now they're
yeah,
getting into a position where it's gonna be more or less happiness around. And
yeah,
I really wish a lot of conflicts that the global ecosystem is experiencing, it also
yeah.
settles in and we are able to find peace back again.
Absolutely. I think spring is a magical time. Winter can be so hard on people, and just to be able to get outside, get some sunshine, walk, it's good. Like we need it, and we're all ready for it.
Totally, totally. And I believe this time Canada saw some of the really freezing and chilly winters out there, minus 32, 35. I have few friends down at Toronto, and they keep sharing the last 3 weeks were minus 32, minus 28 temperatures in that manner.
Yeah, it has been a very snowy, very cold winter. And I know Toronto got a lot of snow. We always do in the north. We just do, we get a lot. But I know Toronto has received more than they're used to and colder temperatures. So, Oh, hang in there, everyone in Toronto.
Yep, yep, yep. And wishing them a lot of hot summer and spring coming up ahead.
That's right. Exactly.
So, Lisa, why don't we start with your introduction? Why don't you share about your journey with our, listeners out there and what's been
Yeah.
keeping you busy so far?
Yeah. So I'm a retired English teacher. I taught English and creative writing for over 25 years. And I left teaching in 2022 at the end of the pandemic. And I've been writing and book coaching ever since then. And I think writing is such an important way of expressing ourselves and reaching out to other people and sharing ideas. But I think, like you say, it's such a great way to um, sort out your own thoughts and feelings and emotions. And it's just a powerful thing. So I write historical fiction and I also write cozy mysteries. I just had a book called Hook and Homicide come out last week. So it's very, very fresh. And it's delightful because I love to see readers' responses to books like that, that they feel a little bit of lightness in the world right now where things can be very heavy and there's a lot of bad news and a lot of every day we're bombarded by like you say on Instagram or Facebook or on the news, whatever it is, there's a lot happening. And so I think reading and writing can be both ways to sort of take a breath and relax and try to sort out some of those feelings.
I agree. I agree. I personally believe that we humans are a composition of our emotions. What
Yes.
we feel, the way we feel it, the intensity and the depth to which we feel those emotions really defines us as a human being, how we're going to be reacting, how we're going to be, behaving with somebody, and the overall aura that we carry around us. It really
Yes.
changes us with the way we have relationship with our emotions. So what are your thoughts
Yes.
on that?
100%. I think I was one of those kids that was, got labeled as overly sensitive, or very shy and too sensitive. And as I aged, I realized, oh no, the fact that I can empathize with other people, the fact that I can read the emotions in a room, um, really is a superpower. And I think we need to recognize how we walk in the world, how we absorb emotions, how we express emotions, whether we're a person who doesn't express emotions but feel things deeply or whatever the situation is. Understanding how you feel about things, how you perceive the world, I think it's just can be powerful, right? Because um, you do make decisions based on how you're reacting. And so if you start to just pay attention to how you absorb those things, look, I have to be careful going into a space that's really, really negative because it will affect me in a very negative way. So I understand that about myself. So I try to make sure that, you can't avoid all the things, but you can understand that, okay, this isn't necessarily something I need to take on. This is not something I need to carry with me because I will if I'm not careful. So I think it's just kind of understanding how you are in the world and understanding that some things you can change and some things you cannot change. And you have to kind of be okay with that too. There's a lot of things we cannot control, but we can hopefully control some of our emotional responses to those things.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I can very well echo with you when you talk about, being oversensitive out there. For a very major part of my life, I have been, labeled as feeling too much, being too emotional for being a boy out there.
Yeah. Mhm.
And again, men being emotional, that's a different topic altogether. We can discuss
Yeah.
it another time. But yes, I totally, totally echo and align with you. And I'm part of this group called Highly, Sensitive People. It's on LinkedIn, and we keep sharing things. It's I guess 1,000 plus members strong right now. Over
Yeah.
last 1 year, it was started by a few people from London, and Jail Ortega is one of the person who started as the co-admin for that group. And
Amazing.
joining that group really made me realize that I'm not the only one, because
Yes.
often with us people like who are sensitive, who feel emotions to a greater extent, we often live in silos. We keep
That's right.
questioning why us, why do I feel so much? vis-a-vis I see my sibling or I see my friend, they are completely nonchalant about something. And even seeing Sirius Black losing its life in Harry Potter Prison of Azkaban made us cry.
That's right.
So,
Yes, exactly.
so
I
okay, please go ahead, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say I love that there's a group that has you've connected with people because that's really important. And like as until I was older, I didn't understand that it is normal. It's just that not everyone feels the same way. But to have a group and understand that they're feeling the same things, it's really beautiful. And and like I say, I do think it's a superpower. I do now, not then, but now because it's we see the world in a different way, and we need people that are empathetic and who understand the emotional gravity of some of these issues. Uh, and people who don't necessarily exude those emotions may be feeling them very deeply. They just don't know how to express them, or there's a fear there, or there's other things happening. And of course, there may be some people that just don't have an emotional response to some things at all, and that's okay too. But I love that you have a group for that, and it's and highly sensitive people. That's amazing. I think that's
I'm
uh,
definitely gonna be
more
inviting
people
that.
should join it.
Surely, surely, surely. I'm gonna be, sharing that link with you on LinkedIn to join, and definitely look forward to, your experiences out there. And something I would really like to put out there, and you also mentioned that empathy is something that really drives us.
Yeah.
Uh, I believe I was probably in my undergraduation when I understood the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yes.
And that day, the way I perceived both of these emotions completely changed.
I
And the reason we empathize over sympathize with somebody is the reason we go through a lot of uninvited, stress, anxiety, and pain into our lives.
mhm.
And to an extent, in one of my experiences, I empathized with somebody who had a knee injury. And the same day, I had my ACL ruptured.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So I have lived that empathy to that extent, where feeling bad for somebody got me also in a similar situation. Uh,
Yeah.
and I am a firm believer of the secret, what you think you manifest.
Mhm.
And I have seen those experiences. And in the same undergraduation, while pursuing my undergraduation, out of 96 practical exams I had to give, 95 practical exams, I got the same very practical, which I had only prepared of. So for each exam, there would be 20 practicals to prepare. I would only prepare one practical, knowing that I will only get that practical the next day. It happened with me 95 out of 96 times.
Amazing. Incredible, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's really powerful.
totally, totally, totally. And that's what believing in empathy and believing in yourself, the soul really, takes you forward. And often for people who are going to be echoing with us while listening to this podcast, uh, managing emotions is a very, very tough thing.
It really is.
So,
Absolutely.
how do you
Yeah.
really see us navigating that path?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always a struggle. I feel like there's a couple of things that have, for me, been important. And one of those things is understanding that those deep emotions, like that they're okay. I feel like there's that kind of, like we said earlier, that you're carrying something from childhood that was labeled as negative, and we have to reverse that and realize, no, this is a positive thing. Like I actually can empathize with people deeply and understand what they're going through and feel what they're feeling. And then you have to say, okay, well, how do I make sure that I protect myself to some extent, that I'm not taking on everyone's problems and issues, like and giving yourself space and time. I'm an introvert, so it's very easy for me to go, okay, I need to just be by myself for a little while. I need to go for a walk. I need to be in nature. There's lots of different ways to kind of ground oneself. And not that I avoid social groups, but I also make sure that I limit how much time I spend in those groups. And it's really hard to walk away from people who are really negative or influence your life in a very negative way. But I think you can limit the amount of energy and time you have with those people, and that can make things a little bit easier. If that's a really difficult thing, because we always have our people, friends who and family members who are, the glass is half full and the glass is half empty people, right? And and colleagues at work. To some extent, you can't control that environment, but you can try to just remind yourself, okay, I don't need to spend too much time or introduce some topics that might go in the wrong direction. So I think you just start learning little tiny ways to handle your own emotional responses. And for me, just reminding myself that that is not something I can change, that I can feel for that person, but also not get too invested in some of those issues because there's not much I can do to help them. It's different if it's somebody you can help or it's something that you can have an impact on, then for sure take action and all of those things. But often it's just controlling your own emotional response. And that's not to say you're not feeling, you're still engaged, you're still empathetic, but it's to some extent you have to protect yourself too, right? And then you have more energy for other people and for the service that you're providing in the world.
I agree. I agree. And Lisa, this brings to me my next point I would like to discuss with you, where often being empathetic leads us, when you talk about people with negative energy, it sort of becomes an addiction to have our energy being sucked out. We don't realize it, but yes, somewhere or the other, there is some rush that makes us feel good. And we keep getting into those situations just to ensure that the other person feels good. We start
Yeah.
to lose ourselves, and
Yes.
we start to lose our own identity, what we really echo with. And we
Yeah.
start, it's like a raw clay which starts to mold the way it is being molded to. And it impacts us internally, but we don't realize what is really impacting. And it
Yeah.
often happens with your very close circle, probably your
Yeah.
siblings, your childhood friends, your parents to a certain extent. And detaching yourself from that space is very difficult. It's nearly next to impossible because being empathetic, the day you decide, okay, I will take a decision to detach, the guilt trip takes over you and you're like, okay, I'm not doing justice with the other person. To safeguard myself, I'm putting them in a wrong position, in a weak position. But we don't realize that by being with them, we are putting ourselves down. We are living a position from weakness. We are not finding our strength out there.
Yeah, 100%. I hear this so strongly because I have been in these situations, especially with family members. And like I say, it's such a difficult thing and a very important thing. I don't think you should just walk away from a relationship um, quickly. I think that if you're going to do that, be very measured because it's probably permanent and can cause a lot of strife in the family. But also, you do need to know yourself and you do need to know what those relationships, like the harm they can do to you, and understanding like if you can manage that relationship and you can kind of work through it and be with that person, that's fine. But there are circumstances where it's more harmful to be with that in communication with that person. So it's a really difficult decision. I don't think there's any straight answer here. Um, and I know this like viscerally because I've been in a situation with a family member, and it's such a difficult thing because the rest of the family or friend group is going to have their own opinion about what should happen or shouldn't happen, and they will have pressure, and it affects them to some extent. And if you cut off a relationship with that person, it affects everybody, and there's a ripple effect that you may not intend. So maybe being very careful about that is important. But I also truly believe sometimes there are really unhealthy relationships that do not help you as a person to keep going on in your life that affects who you are, how you think. It puts a lot of strain and pressure on yourself. So I think in those cases, then you have to evaluate what's best for you and protect
Yeah.
yourself so that you can keep really great relationships with other people. But yeah, it really takes one person to can really throw off your health and your mental health and your emotional stability. So it's such a complicated thing that it's hard to. And of course, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, but having experienced that myself and sort of seeing both the negative and positive sides of a relationship being restricted has impacted how I see myself. I do feel like it can also make you feel like you have taken control back and you are able to make decisions without having that negativity around you. But there's definitely a ripple effect on other people in the family or in the friend group. So it's tough. That's probably a difficult one to do. But we do have to take care of ourselves and
I
find a way
agree.
to do that.
Again, it's not easy. Often, these members, family members, would try to pull you back. They will
Yeah.
start jibing at you, say something which will give you more guilt trips, and like, okay, whether I'm doing right. But
Yeah.
even through very hard ways, what I've realized myself is you need to take a stand for yourself. The journey is not going to be easy. You would have to navigate. You would have to take some hard decisions. You would have to get out of your comfort zone, because being in that zone where you always kept operating from a space of weakness, that becomes something known to you. That is something that you're aware of. And now navigating to a place that's completely unknown but gives you strength, it
Yes.
scares the hell out of you.
That's right. It's
But
very true.
it's important for you to reach your highest potential, what you're meant to be doing here. And what's somewhere or the other, and if I'm not wrong in putting it out in the right the manner I'm going to be saying it, uh even in Bhagavad Gita, one of the most revered book, that we as Hindus and Indians follow, it often says that you came alone in this world and you will leave this world alone.
Oh, yes.
It's
Yes.
a journey of self that you need to
Yes.
navigate.
I love that so much. It's really quite beautiful. It actually gives me a little shiver right there. It's sort of a beautiful thing to think about. And I often say this, I forget who said it, um, but it was, we're all just walking each other home, which I also love because
Yep.
we're all on a path together. We're all on a journey together. But at the end of the day, we are individuals needing to have our life's journey. And yes, we can walk beside somebody, but we can't walk in their shoes, right? And
Totally.
it's all individually figuring it out. And um, yeah, I really love that. I'm gonna write that down.
I totally agree with you when you say that we can walk with somebody and not walk it for them. I recently was navigating something where I tried walking that path for them.
Mhm.
And after a certain while, I realized that it's not me for to walk that path.
That's
I
right.
can hold their hand while they're walking. I can be the one pulling them, pushing them on that path,
Yes.
but I cannot be the one walking that path.
That's right. Yeah. And
So,
as empathetic as we are, as much as we're feeling their negative emotions or whatever they're feeling, and we can kind of connect to it, at the end of the day, we're not experiencing it the way they are experiencing it.
yep,
We're experiencing a version of what we're feeling from them that's emanating from them, but we're not in their shoes and we can't really feel like what they're going through. I think empaths can feel much more deeply than others, but it's still that individual who's having their individual unique experience of whatever they're going through. And yeah, I think that's like you say, that's all we can really do is be there and help and try to help them along the path, but we can't do that for them. And I think that's true of all the situations.
yep. And one of the another realizations I had was while you're empathizing with them, while you are, looking forward to empowering and enabling them, you might build a bond with them, which you believe is gonna be something that's the end goal of your life. But it's gonna take a lot of courage, and it took me a lot of courage to accept that probably that's not the end goal of my life. The end goal of my life is to work on myself, find my individuality, find my own identity. And probably
Yes.
the day I find that identity, the day I realize and build that individuality, I would be in a much better space to empower that person, that individual out there. And
Totally.
being empathetic from a space of weakness, we often feel that no, just being there for them is the best way to serve them or support them. But sorry, that's not the best way. That's one of the worst ways, I would say, if I'm allowed to being harsh in my
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
to be supporting somebody. You need to find your individuality, your own identity, and
Yes.
operate from the place of strength. Because
Mhm.
as you rightly said, being empathetic is a superpower that Almighty has endowed us with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that so much. I feel like there's so many old patterns that we carry with us from childhood and relationships with people that we've had for, decades. Those patterns keep emerging even as you are starting to learn about yourself and grow as a person and maybe not fit the patterns that you had as a younger person and you start to become who you're meant to be. The people around you sometimes embrace that and sometimes do not because you're becoming something that they don't recognize and the patterns are being broken. So I think it's a challenge, right, to become who you're meant to be, um, and you don't. And what I'm finding is you don't always have the kind like the support that you think that you would expect from people because I think they're struggling with their own identity. And there's if you they see somebody else doing well, there's kind of it's not a reflection on not wanting to support you or feeling like not even jealousy, but more like, well, it makes them think about themselves and like how is my life going and am I doing what I want to do and um she's doing that but what about me and so it becomes like a mirror of what they're maybe not trying to achieve for themselves or what they're not moving forward and they're seeing somebody else. So sometimes I think, oh, it's, like I'm working so hard or whatever. And I'm not getting the support. And I think, okay, it's not actually about me. That's about them. That's about their own journey and what they're seeing about their life and whether or not they're achieving what they want to achieve and not because like I'm just the mirror of that, right? So
Yeah.
there's so it's kind of gets complicated, but I feel like you can't stop yourself from moving forward because the people around you are not, like great, good for you. They're maybe just dealing with their own issues and dealing with their own journey. So you have to kind of compartmentalize those things a little bit and say, okay, I just got to keep doing my thing and not worry about the response. And, I think people are generally supportive and caring, but they're carrying their own weight around and they maybe don't express as much joy and happiness for success in somebody else as you would love to have, but I think that's okay. Um, yeah,
I agree. And so, Lisa, if you look at it from a perspective where how can empaths or anybody out there, not even just empaths, but anybody out there struggling with their emotions or anything in their life find their language of expression? For
yeah,
me, for a very long time, language of expression has been poetry, has been
beautiful.
writing.
Yeah,
I used to do journal writing when I was probably in my school. I stopped doing it for a very long time. And recently, around January, I resorted back to it. While I was creating a lot of poetry, short, long, in Hindi language, in English language, a mix of both the languages. So I created few poems where I have mixed both the languages. So two lines would be Hindi, two lines would be English. So there were sort of three poems in one single poem out there. And
amazing.
it provided me that innovative space as well when I started expressing myself freely. I didn't, held myself back in any manner when I was writing those poetry. But yes, writing those journals or finding that power again to map my free flow of thoughts to probably the keyboard this time instead of a pen and a paper.
Yeah.
I'm typing it out on a Google document because, again, I tried doing pen and paper and it was getting very hard for me to write. And I really wanted some an outlet. And so I said, okay, I do typing, I do content writing as my, profession. Let's just type it out.
Yep.
And probably 42 pages after writing those 42 pages over probably what I would say 15 days, I feel a lot better.
Amazing.
I feel my thoughts much structured. That gave me the power to surrender to Almighty and let things be navigated as per His will out there. I will not say that I don't cry even today. I do cry at times when the emotions really take over me. But yes,
Yes.
where the stress and anxiety, which didn't allow me to work, which got me to a state where I felt completely out of energy. I have transitioned from that space. Now I'm able to work 24/7. It's probably since I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. It's 9 p.m. right now, and I'm still full of energy. And
You are.
I'm feeling that emotions even right now. But
Yeah.
yes, now after putting myself out there in form of those words on a Google document, I would say being very realistic, honest, I
Yeah.
have gained back my power to work and focus back. I'm
Yes.
accepting the emotions as they are.
Mhm.
So, how would you really help people out there who find it very restricting, a lot of hurdles in the way? How
Yeah.
can they start this journey? Because for me, just happened. I don't have the answer out there.
Yeah.
How I really navigated it. Probably they would have been a process that I followed, but
Yeah.
if you can, really articulate in a much better manner so that people can start following it and
Yeah.
befriend themselves again.
Yeah. I love this so much that how powerful poetry has been for you and how life changing and how putting your thoughts and emotions on the page have had that ripple effect on the rest of your life and given you your power back and energy and like it's so beautiful. And I think that's really the power of the written word. And there's a couple of things like I think writing is one of those ways. So if people just want to journal and put down their like how their day went and like write down how it felt and write down the worries that they had or the anxieties, there's something about that that allows us to um step away, like almost like let it go, like put it on the page and be able to let it go and be able to look at it in a little bit more analytical way to, and say, okay, well, I can make a decision about this and I can do something about that. I can't do anything about that, and that's okay. Right. So being able to express it on paper, I think is super important. The fact that you decided to go with poetry, I think that's beautiful. It's a very expressive way to talk about emotions and other ideas and, big concepts from the world. So that's a beautiful way to do it. But equally, writing fiction, writing short stories, writing a memoir, any kind of writing will help you um, like sort of let go of what's inside you, and you can even express that in your character. So it doesn't have to be you. It can be a completely made up character, and you can put that character through all kinds of emotions and all kinds of things that happen to them. And somehow our brain allows us to let go of what's happening within ourselves, right? And for me, I hesitate always to call writing is therapy, but I think it is therapeutic, right? There's nothing to replace actual therapy with a qualified individual, right? That's necessary, important lots of times, but it's a really wonderful therapeutic tool to be able to sit down and write and let ideas flow. And for some of us, if we're not doing it, I can see my like I'll have a return to depression or I'll have a return of anxiety. But then when I'm writing regularly, like you say, there I'm lighter, I feel better, I feel like more in control. And so for writing for me is like a necessary thing. I think some people are going to find the same um, responses through other art forms. So if they're dancers, you need to move, you need to hear the music, you need to express your emotion through your body. I think artists do that on their canvases with paint. And actors do it on the stage through somebody else's lines, but they can express through their body and their voice. I think there's lots of ways to get there, especially through the arts. But to start small and just be at home and say, okay, I'm just going to take a couple minutes in the morning and write and see what happens. And it doesn't have to be for anybody else. Nobody else has to see it. It's just for you. And if you do that every day for a week and see, like, how do I feel? Does that feel better? Like, am I lighter? Am I starting my day a little bit more in a positive way? I think it can be really, really powerful. And you're a very good example of that, right? That it can really work. So, you know, anyone who has sort of an artistic bent to them, they need to be creative, find a way to express your creativity, even if it's just for yourself, because it will have a positive impact. And maybe someday you'll want to share that. Maybe you want to do your art for somebody else or write a book for somebody else or whatever. That's fine. But I in the moment, I think do it because you need to and you want to, and track how it makes you feel and if it does have a positive impact. And I don't want to, you know, put numbers on, but I feel like 100% you will feel better because it's so powerful, and we need to express ourselves in some way, and that's just amazing way to do it. So
I agree. And if I understand the basics of energy healing, and open to all the energy healers out there to correct me, it's a negative energy that gets trapped within, which needs to be released.
yeah,
And the, language of expression, it could be writing, it could be singing, it could be painting, it could be dancing. Like at times, I am just dancing in an acrobatic freestyle in my own head, uh,
yes,
and just letting those emotions out along with journaling. Right now when I'm doing writing, I have
yeah,
also started ensuring that I go for my walk every day.
yes,
I started with very small targets. I used to do only 2 kilometers a day, and today I'm at a place where I'm able to clock at least 3.5 times of it. So within
nice,
50 days, I have been able to navigate that. I have lost 15 kgs of my weight, while for last 1 week, I have gotten back to my stress eating. But yes, I'm
yeah,
ensuring that I compensate that with my extra walk. And I'm now,
yeah,
again, since the moment I realized that, okay, I have been doing stress eating again, I'm making conscious efforts to reduce it. So
yes,
you will have fallbacks. It's
yes,
just that you need to acknowledge them, accept them, identify them, and then slowly and steadily find your way to navigate back to what's really going to be helping you. And what has really worked for me, not being too harsh on myself, uh, taking smaller goals. While I had 100 days challenge, and when I started that 100 days challenge of going every day to walk, I had put in a condition that whatever may come, I will not skip a day. But
yeah,
then there were some work obligations, there were some health obligations, there were some travel obligations. I could not do it for that day. But then I ensured the next day I got back to it.
yes,
So giving myself that space over a period of time, which I have realized really allowed me to be consistent with these efforts and putting it out there. Just, and the reason I'm being very candid right now and sharing these experiences is, even if it helps one person out there, I believe the mission of this podcast is achieved. And I just want people to know that you're not alone out there. We had Oren, Beros from Texas, being interviewed on this podcast around a few weeks back. His story really inspired, and God was so kind on me. He sent that person on the podcast during the days when I was at my lowest. Hearing that individual's story really changed my perspective towards life. So often we are living in our own silos and we believe that life is hard for us. But Go out there, be vulnerable, share your story. You might end up hearing a story that's even harsher than yours. And when that person can smile, when that person can be joyful, filling rooms with love, filling rooms with laughter, then what's stopping you out there? So that's my experience. And you have written 4 books, if I'm not wrong, so far, if I read your bio correctly. So if you can
Yes.
share about those books and how each book got its inspiration and how it really helped you navigate your journey.
Right. So the first book was called Surviving Studhof. And my dad was a 16-year-old merchant marine. He lived in Finland during World War II. And his ship was captured in Poland. And they were sent to all the sailors, 4 Finnish ships actually, were sent to Poland, a Nazi concentration camp. And so he was 84 when he told me his story. And, you know, had I think at the time they didn't diagnose PTSD, but he definitely had PTSD and he had night terrors and he walked through the world with this really terrible thing that had happened as a child, well, as a young person. And so he told me his story. So that was the first book I wrote, was about my dad's experiences. So actually, even though it's the first book I wrote, it's the most important book I'll ever write in my life. There's nothing going to be more important than that one. And we talked about therapy and writing, and um, writing that book with him was therapeutic for sure. He had a really difficult time telling me his story. And there was a time when I thought he's never going to talk about what happened in that camp. He's told me about childhood. He's told me about coming to Canada, but he's never going to talk about that. He did get there eventually, but it took many, many, many months. So after, when the book had been published and we were going to events together, he would talk to strangers about what had happened. And I thought, who is this? Like, you couldn't tell me. And now you're just telling them what's going on, because he let it go, right? He told the story and he let it go. And so that's why I think writing is such an important part of the healing process, because you do need to let those stories, you need to talk about them. And did he still have night terrors? Yes. Did he still suffer as a result of having been in that concentration camp? Yes. But I think just telling that story and writing, and I wrote it, but he had read every single version of that and had full license to change anything that I did wrong, was so important. Um, so that was the first one. And then my true love um, is fiction. So I wrote a historical novel called Sisu's Winter War, set during the Finnish-Russian Winter War, partly in Northern Ontario. And that was kind of a result of wanting to know what my aunts and my grandmother were doing in Finland during the Winter War and what it was like for them. So there was sort of that question, and I did the research and created these fictional characters. And that was a delightful book to write. Difficult and sad, but also, again, exploring the emotions of those people and what happened during the war. And the next historical novel came out last year, is called Like Water for Weary Souls. And in this one, I decided I want to write historical fiction again. I love historical fiction. I set it in my hometown of Sudbury during the Depression of the 1930s. It's a mining town here in Northern Ontario. And I had 2 Finnish immigrant sisters who moved from their farming community to town. But one sister, her body is found in Nolan Creek, and the other sister says, something's happened here. And the police say it was an accident. She says, no, it was an accident. I know it wasn't an accident. And there's a backstory to that. And so the story is really about her trying to figure out what happened to her sister. So it is a mystery. It's historical literature, though, as well. And it was really fun to place it in Sudbury with a Finnish community and an immigrant community, and be able to sort of explore what it was like for people to be living through this really difficult time, and then embed this mystery. And so the most recent book was Complete Departure. I have 2 other historical novels that are sort of on my computer, that they're at various stages of being done. But the most recent one is called Huga and Homicide, and it's a cozy mystery. The first in a series. It came out on March 3rd, so very recently. And the second one is called Midsummer Marriage and Murder, and that comes out in April. And those, I think it's kind of reflecting what we're talking about, which is The historical fiction can be, because it's based in sometimes dark time periods and dealing with loss and various things. The cozy mysteries feel lighter and softer and gentler. And I created a town that's fictional called Lakewood, and it's delightful, and the people are quirky. And I just needed that lightness for myself. So how was I going to achieve that in this world that is sort of every day bombarded with different kinds of news? I thought, well, I'm going to create that town. I'm going to create those characters. And yes, there is a murder because it is a cozy mystery. But, it's very light. And my sleuth, amateur sleuth, is trying to figure out what happened and find the murderer. But overall, it's delightful and has nods to my Nordic and Scandinavian, or Nordic and Finnish Scandinavian heritage. And so it was just a really fun thing to do. And I hope readers will read and feel like a little escape from the day and just a little bit of lightness and fun. So it's been fun to write both historical books, because I love to learn about history and I love to see, how these massive events have affected people. But the cozy mysteries are where I find some lightness in my own day, and writing them is a delight. So I hope that what we've been talking about, just that, uh, you know, feeling the positivity, finding ways to have a little joy in your day, to have some lightness, because it can be hard to go through life and feeling like everything's weighing on you, and you turn on the news and you're like, oh, what's going on now? And so for me, writing is a way to do that, and I hope that it helps readers too.
I It's definitely gonna be helping, Lisa, out there, because every story out there leaves an imprint on the reader, and it really changes them a little bit inside.
Yeah.
I have been reading, unposted letters. Right now, I often find the author's name a little tongue twister, so I'm not going to be attempting that. But I would say that that's one book everybody should read. It was gifted by one of my close friends. And probably I would say that's one of the best gifts at the right time being given to me to
Yeah.
navigate the last 2 months. And it changed a lot of perspectives. It Certain things I really aligned with what were written. Certain things helped me evolve as an individual, and two, three things which I really didn't align completely, but yes, I was able to build the versions of my own which I aligned with. So one of the lines
Yes.
that come in that book is, "Do unto others as they do you." And I felt that that was not right. So I changed it to, "Do unto others as you want them to unto you." So
Yes.
that's what I evolved to. And probably in last 4 or 5 of my Instagram stories, I've mentioned this line time and again. Because if you go for an eye, the world will become blind.
Right.
But then if you want to make this world a beautiful place, why don't you be the initiation of that beauty in this world?
Yeah.
And that's what something being driving me and motivating me to stay on course with the way I am as an individual, and not get into that probably no emotions individual, which makes it easy for us empaths to survive in this world.
Yeah, 100%. I love that so much. I love that. Um, I feel like books often do come find us when we need them, right? Like they just appear and they just resonate. Maybe you could have read that book, I don't know, 10 years ago, and it would have been, oh, that's good. But you needed it and you found something in it that spoke to you. And I think that's so important and powerful, that books of fiction and nonfiction and poetry can really change how we see ourselves and the world. And what I love right now is that you and I are talking from different sides of the globe, and we have the same feelings about empaths, about walking through the world. Like we're like the way human beings are more similar than different
Yeah.
is like, we're all just having a slightly different life experiences, but we're really the same all over the globe. And so when we
Right.
pick up that book and it's set somewhere else and we have never experienced that culture or been to that country, and then we just get some insight into somebody else's experiences, but the emotions and um, the sense of humanity is the same wherever you go. And
Right.
that's what I love so much about, like, I like to read widely. I like to read books from all kinds of authors all over the world, different cultures, different traditions, different world events. And because what's essential is those universal truths and I think we need more of that recognition of that today, because there's so much divisiveness and people who want to divide us, and it's just so unnecessary, and we just have to see through that. It's not true. It's there. It's created those divisiveness. So I just think we need to embrace the fact that we're all just people here on earth together, and like you said earlier, we're all having our own journey, and we're all just trying to do the best we can and learn what we can. um, but we're the same. And so I think books can remind us of that.
I agree. I totally agree. Um, Lisa, help me understand that, when we started, you shared your profile for the being a guest on the podcast. You mentioned about being a memoir coach, where you help people navigate how to write a book. So can
Yes.
you help us traverse that journey in brief? How do you really help individuals? How do you help them connect with themselves? And then finally overcome those initial hurdles where they start expressing themselves?
Yeah, for sure. I've worked with a lot of memoir writers, especially first time memoirs, because often it's when you're just starting to write, you have a story, but you don't know how to write it and you don't know how to structure it, and there's a lot of doubts, right? And and writing about your personal story is a real act of vulnerability and takes some courage to put it down on paper, especially if you plan to share it with the world. It's one thing to write for yourself, and that's great, and you should do that. But as soon as you decide, oh, this book is going to be published, or I'm going to publish it or send it out to a publisher or an agent, that's a whole other level of, like, you're no longer thinking just about yourself. This is up for readers, and it's to help readers, right? It's to connect with them. But when I start with writers, often we're really working on figuring out what is the story, because we're not writing a biography from birth to whatever age. We're writing about a time period in your life that was significant. So it's picking that 6 months, that year, that 10 years, whatever it might be, and deciding, like, where does the story start and where does it end, and what is it I want readers to understand from this. So yes, you are helping yourself by writing it, and it's so important to do that. And it's taking all of those memories and getting them on the page. It's such a powerful thing. But if you're planning to share it with the world, you want to understand why your story will resonate with other people and how you're helping them. So I love that, because it becomes not just about you anymore. It's about you helping somebody. And I always suggest to writers, think about your ideal reader, not like, thousands of people. Think about one person. Who is the ideal reader for this book, and why do they need it? And if you can answer that and imagine that one person who needs your words, it'll be this guiding light for you to finish this book. Because like, if you, like you said earlier about the podcast, if you can help one person, it's right, like that, like, we can talk about thousands and millions of people, but that one person, that they need it. And so if the memoirist can think about that one ideal reader, now they have a purpose to finish, and they can write to that person. They're writing for them. And so it becomes less about yourself as a writer, even though, writers are really, especially when you're writing memoir, you're writing a lot about yourself. But if you're writing for someone, that's power. And you are going to want to finish your book, and it will guide you through the whole thing. So it's a challenge to write a memoir. It's difficult, but it can be so important for the individual and therapeutic for them, but also for the reader. They're out there and they need to hear your story, and they will, like you say, be changed by it. And what better gift is there than that you have affected one life? I think, so if anyone has a memoir out there and needs to write it, I feel like start by journaling, start by getting those stories down, start by just getting thoughts on paper, and then eventually you're going to mold that into a story that you will get to that one person who needs it.
Amazing, amazing. One final question, Lisa, before we conclude our conversation for today. One thing when it comes to empaths and families, a lot of intergenerational trauma is often dumped onto us. I would not say passed on, I would say dumped onto us. And okay, if it's been shared, once you shared about your father, he
Yeah.
was safeguarding you from his most traumatic experiences, but then he eventually opened up.
Yes.
So probably there could be two, three parts to this question because I understand it's very subjective and very sensitive in nature.
Yes.
Uh, but when should an individual, let alone empaths, any individual out there, say that, okay, I've heard this story multiple times. It's enough. You need to find ways to accept it. Don't dump it on me, onto me.
Right.
It's impacting me. It's taking away my energy. I need that space. I need to heal from your experience, and you need to heal from your journey that you have lived. I'm sorry that you have to go through it, but it's your journey to heal, and it's you who need to heal. You cannot be making me live that again and again.
Yeah,
So,
that's such a powerful question. Like in my experience with my dad, I feel like when you're young, you cannot but, especially if you're empathic, cannot but help take it on. So I didn't know about what had happened to my father, but as a child, I knew because there was a heaviness and I recognized it. And maybe my siblings in my house didn't have the same emotional reaction because they're not empathetic the same way I am. So I think that there's part of it that you can't avoid. But as you get older and you recognize that where that is coming from, and then I think that's when you can say, okay, yes, I don't need to relive this. I don't need to carry this. Um, I probably carry his experiences more deeply than I might have if we hadn't done this book together. But what I'm trying to do as a result of having written this book is to use his life as an example to myself. Like whenever I think something's been really, not good in my life or things aren't going well, I just need to remember, oh, this is nothing. This, like, my dad went through so much. And as a result of his experiences, yes, he had this sort of duality. He had the darkness, he had the bad dreams, but he was, in an actuality, with other people, he was the kindest person. He was always laughing, telling jokes and stories. If somebody needed help, he was the first one to be there. Like, he just chose to live this life of goodness and kindness, and having been through all these negative things that you could be in the world, just being so generous and positive. Yes, sometimes he was at home and quiet and had trouble sleeping and had nightmares. Yes, of course. But in the world, he was the person you would call on because he would be right there to help you whatever it was. And so I have decided to remind myself that when times are tough for me, it's okay. It's nothing. I can get through this. I have the ability to get through this. I have the strength to get through this, and just remind myself. And it doesn't mean that because I'm having these negative emotions or feelings or reactions, that I shouldn't be out in the world like without spreading positivity. So yeah, so it might be in here and at home, I'm thinking about, being anxious about something, but like when I'm in the world with people, what they need is positivity, and that feeds my positivity. That makes me feel better, right? Like if you go in the world being like, well, and you're negative and you're sending out all that negative energy, you're going to get that back. But if you are positive and you feel um, you're kind to people, and you're going to receive that back, and that's what I receive back every day. So I think that's part of it, is having family members who've gone through things and they're carrying that with them. It's not like like we can't help but feel empathy for them, but also trying not to carry it with them, like acknowledge it and learn from what they've gone through and find the strength from what they've gone through, and then keep finding the ways to be positive. I think it can put life in perspective if you acknowledge that family members, especially the generations before us who have gone through a lot of things, if we just acknowledge that, yeah, you know what, that was really difficult for them and they may still be struggling, but we can take the positives from that experience and say, well, we can move forward. Like we have the strength in us. Things can get better. Just, and it's hard sometimes, right, to pull out the positives from some really terrible traumatic experiences. But I think it's possible, and it's a mindset, right? You have to decide. Like I think my dad decided every day to be positive. I think he decided to be kind. I think he decided to laugh and have fun and tell stories. Like he may have woken up from bad dreams and terrible nightmares, and then he started his day with, okay, I'm this, like, let's not enter the world with those emotions. And I think it's a choice. Not an easy one, and we're not perfect, and it won't be good every day. But if we keep repeating it, then we find ways to the lightness more frequently than we do to the dark.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks, Lisa, for sharing such pearls of wisdom with our listeners today. And this is one of the conversations I really enjoyed. I'm sure our listeners are also going to be taking away a lot of, learning from this episode this time.
Oh, that's wonderful. And like you say, if only one person is taking something good away and it helps their day or their week or their year, then we have done a good thing here. And I have been delighted to talk to you because I feel like we are very aligned in our thinking, and our sense of um, uh, understanding, empathy, and where we're coming from is very, very similar. So I just really appreciate that because I feel very seen today.
Same here, same here. I could really find somebody who could reverb at the same frequency. It was amazing talking to you, and even operating at the 14th hour for me since the morning, I can find that energy back in me.
Amazing. And now you get to rest and relax and maybe do a little journal or write a poem, and you'll feel just revived. Amazing.
Yep, yep, totally, totally. And listeners, I hope this conversation helped you today. Uh, Lisa is here for you. I'm here for you. If you want to discuss any of our life experiences, feel free to reach out to us. We will put in Lisa's LinkedIn and Instagram profile in the description below. So I believe you have Lisa's permission to reach out to you on her DM. You have mine as well to reach out to me. And just remember, acknowledge what you're going through, identify it and accept it, and then find ways to express it. One way, what we have created for you is our anonymous mental health platform. You can come and share your worry, stress, anything without feeling the fear of prejudice or judgment. It's completely anonymous. And remember, we are listening, we are here for you. Until next time, please stay tuned and keep blossoming. We have spring coming up. So let's get up for a happy spring this time. Thank you, and we are listening.